A guerra de Israel e dos Estados Unidos, ou dos Estados Unidos e Israel, tanto faz, a ordem não importa, contra o Irã entra no sexto dia, sem perspectiva de terminar. No dia 2 de março, Donald Trump previu uma guerra rápida de 4 a 5 semanas, mas garante que está preparado para algo mais longo. Veja o vídeo.
We heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully we will no longer need their services in this capacity.
Bom, essa semana o secretário de Estado Marco Rubio disse que os Estados Unidos foram informados por Israel do ataque e decidiram bombardear o Irã antes de se tornarem alvo. Veja o vídeo.
We stood and waited for that attack to come first. Before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties.
A entrevista de Rubio irritou Trump e o secretário de Estado teve de fazer contorcionismo para tentar esclarecer os fatos. Veja aí a fala do Trump e do Marco Rubio.
I think they were going to attack first, and I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand. But Israel was ready and we were ready.
That contradicts what Secretary of State Marco Rubio said just yesterday, that Israel was planning on attacking Iran's regime with or without the U.S.
Depois dessa fala do Trump, o Rubio teve que, de novo, conversar com a imprensa para dar uma outra explicação. Veja aqui o vídeo com as duas entrevistas.
Yesterday you told us that Israel was going to strike Iran and that's why we needed to get involved. Today the president said that Iran was going to get.
Yeah, your statement is false. So that's not what I was asked very specifically. Were you there yesterday?
Yes, I
Okay. No, were you the one that? Because somebody asked me the question yesterday. Did we go in because of Israel? And I said, you were asking me that. You for that follow up, and I said no. I told you this had to happen anyway. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed.
Mas afinal, o que está por trás desses ataques? Aqui nesse vídeo que eu vou colocar agora, há uma série de declarações de Benjamin Netanyahu, primeiro-ministro de Israel, ao longo dos últimos 30 anos.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly if they wanted to.
Iran is so dangerous. Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb. Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a day.
Iran will be capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 5 years.
Once Saddam has nuclear weapons, the terror network will have nuclear weapons. The next thing you'll see is a nuclear bomb in the World Trade Center. If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you, that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region.
Bom, sobrou até para o Saddam Hussein. Aparentemente, as previsões do primeiro-ministro israelense parecem mais aquelas previsões do tempo que nunca se confirmam. Bom, o governo israelense tem usado cada vez mais a Bíblia como argumento. Deus prometeu aquela terra aos judeus e chegou a hora não apenas de defendê-la do Islã, mas de tomá-la de volta. Isso significa avançar sobre territórios do Iraque, Kuwait, Arábia Saudita, Jordânia, Líbano, Síria e Turquia. Sem falar na Palestina, que na prática já foi anexada. Gaza é um campo de concentração a céu aberto e a Cisjordânia é um campo de caça com terroristas israelenses destruindo casas, matando rebanhos e assassinando os palestinos que vivem na área ocupada e que agora está sendo formalmente tornada parte de Israel. Esse vídeo é uma pequena amostra do que os palestinos sofrem diariamente na Cisjordânia. Os chamados colonos, que na verdade atuam como milícias protegidas pela polícia e pelo exército de Israel. Muitos deles são adolescentes estimulados pelos pais. Tem mais esse daqui. O palestino levou um tiro e teve a perna amputada. Aqui no site da organização israelense B'Tselem, é uma organização judaica que luta pelos direitos humanos em Israel, é possível assistir a diversos vídeos de ataques contra palestinos, além de uma série de relatórios sobre a situação dos direitos humanos para os palestinos, que na verdade não existe. E quem são esses colonos? Os colonos israelenses somam aproximadamente 750 mil pessoas que vivem em mais de 150 assentamentos apoiados pelo Estado e 128 postos avançados na Cisjordânia ocupada e em Jerusalém Oriental. Essas comunidades são consideradas ilegais sob o direito internacional, mas Israel não está nem aí para o direito internacional. Os colonos incluem sionistas religiosos, ultra-ortodoxos e israelenses seculares que buscam um custo de vida mais baixo e, frequentemente, moradias subsidiadas pelo governo de Israel. Embora muitos vivam nos blocos de assentamentos, entre aspas, perto de Jerusalém e Tel Aviv, outros vivem no interior da Cisjordânia. Cerca de 40% dos chamados colonos são de outros países, a maioria dos Estados Unidos, da França e da Rússia, ou seja, judeus que tiveram a cidadania israelense garantida pelo fato de serem judeus. Ao aceitarem ocupar a casa de um palestino, esses colonos concordam em participar da limpeza étnica dos palestinos em troca de uma série de benefícios financeiros, isenções de impostos, por exemplo. Muitos colonos acreditam que estão retornando à sua pátria ancestral bíblica, Judéia e Samaria, motivados por convicções religiosas ou nacionalistas. Aí, assista esse vídeo do site Middle East Eye.
This is not your homeland. It's the Jewish homeland. And one day it's all going to be ours. And the Arabs know that. They also have the Bible.
So your dream is an Israel stretching from the Euphrates to the Nile?
So it's not my dream. It's a prophet that we got, like from Abraham. I believe that Abraham is my great-great-grandfather.
So the mission is to expand Israel from what it is today,
Also, yes,
to expand into Syria,
yeah,
into Egypt.
exactly.
Are you excited about these plans?
I'm very excited.
But this entails that you would have to take over countries that already exist.
Right.
So we're talking about half of Iraq, we're talking about
Right.
Syria, we're talking about parts of Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt. How is that going to happen? There are people living in these countries. What's going to happen to them?
It's a great question. Like, I don't know. I know it's going to happen. Like, once the Turkeys were here and then the British were here and now we're here.
So when Israel was established
Yes.
over 70 years ago, there were people here, the Palestinians.
Right.
They have been living here for centuries. How do you feel about the Palestinians as a people?
I don't know them personally.
You don't know any Palestinian
No,
person.
personally.
So how do you feel about them as a people?
Like if he has his pride that this is his homeland, so I don't respect him. Like I won't spit on him and I won't do anything. Yes, just like, and my feeling is like this is not your homeland. It's the Jewish homeland, and like one day it's all going to be ours, and the Arabs know that. They also have the Bible. I don't know why they're so like they also have the Bible, and they all know how it's going to finish.
E agora esse vídeo da Daniela Weiss, que é uma colona, entre aspas, uma das maiores criminosas de guerra da história. E ela diz o que os sionistas pretendem.
How big is that land? Because
It's very big. No, this is the promise of God to the patriarchs of the Jewish nation. It's 3,000 kilometers. It's almost as big as the Sahara Desert.
so this is the biblical Israel. Can I call it it? Yeah. So and this is what's and so which countries are these?
Which country? Don't mention. I think it's Iraq
Yeah.
and Syria
So you
and
believe
part of Saudi Arabia. This is a holy place. It's a place, one part of the universe that was chosen by God. It's a kind of a stage for the Jewish nation to express the ideas and ideals of the Jewish nation.
E aqui o embaixador dos Estados Unidos em Israel falando numa sessão do Congresso sobre o direito de Israel a anexar a Palestina, baseado na Bíblia. Esse daí é um senador fazendo uma pergunta para o embaixador. Vou colocar o áudio aqui.
As you've confirmed here today. So I want to know where you draw the line. I recognize that you will be the president's emissary, but you've made a lot of comments on this, so I'm interested in your thoughts. Okay, so when you said in 2017, and I quote, Israel has title deed to Judea and Samaria, unquote, you did not mean it gave Israel the right to kick Palestinians off their lands in the West Bank. Am I right about that?
Senator, I've never indicated that that was a part of that. I simply referenced the biblical mandate that goes all the way back to the time of Abraham, 3,500 years ago, and that's what I was referencing.
No, I understand you have that view, but I'm trying to understand the consequences of that view. So in your view, if Israel were to annex the West Bank, what rights would Palestinians have? Because when I asked you that question yesterday, you focused on the right to work, economic opportunities. So my question today is, would those Palestinian individuals in an annexed West Bank have the same legal and democratic rights as Israeli Jews living in the West Bank?
Annexation does not mean displacement of people.
No, I'm not asking about displacement right now. I'm asking if they remained there, would they have equal rights to Israeli Jews living on the West Bank?
There would be security, there would be opportunity.
That's not what I'm asking.
Okay.
You know that.
No, I'm
So I'm asking whether they would have
understand.
equal legal rights, whether they would have the same legal rights as Israeli Jew who settled on the West Bank living side by side? Would they have the same legal and political rights?
Senator, if you mean, would they be able to live freely? They already do.
How about voting? You're suggesting that the West Bank become part of Israel. Are you suggesting that Palestinians living in the West Bank should have the right then to vote in elections in Israel?
Senator, let me correct and say I'm not suggesting.
Let me move on.
Bom, e agora um vídeo em que o mesmo embaixador, dando uma entrevista para o jornalista Tucker Carlson, respondendo de forma mais concisa o que ele acha sobre o direito bíblico de Israel.
I'll let you off on this because you have said it 3 times that God gave this land to this people. And so it is entirely fair for me with respect to ask, what land are you talking about? Because I just read Genesis 15, as I have many times. And that land, I think it says, from the Nile to the Euphrates, which is, once again, basically the entire Middle East. So God gave that land to his people, the Jews, or he didn't. You're saying he did. What does that mean? Does Israel have the right to that land? Because you're appealing to Genesis. You're saying that's the original deed.
It would be fine if they took it all.
Bom, com isso voltamos ao argumento que tem ganhado cada vez mais força. Israel é uma terra prometida por Deus aos judeus há mais de 3.000 anos e a hora é agora. Nos últimos dias começou uma ação coordenada entre autoridades israelenses e dos Estados Unidos. A questão atômica foi para segundo plano e a questão religiosa passou a ser mencionada em diversas entrevistas. Aqui, o líder da oposição liberal, digamos assim, de Israel, está afirmando abertamente que as fronteiras bíblicas de Israel deveriam incluir territórios da Turquia, Síria, Iraque, Jordânia, Egito, Arábia Saudita e Líbano, para que o país se tornasse grande, vasto e imponente.
אם אדוני משגיא רקבי אמר שאנחנו יודעים מה מידת ההשפעה של הממשל האמריקאי על הממשלה פה, שהוא תומך בשליטה ישראלית מהפרת ועד הנילוס, הוא אומר על לבנון, על ירדן, על סוריה. האם אתה תומך או שאתה חושב שצריך לעצור את הקריאה הזאת?
תראה, אני חושב שוויכוח ברמה התנ"כית, מה גבולות ארץ ישראל המקוריים, הפרט זה, ממש בדקתי זה בעיראק, לא נראה לי שהאמריקאים נכנסו לעיראק עם חתונה גדולה. אני תומך בכל דבר שיאפשר ליהודים ארץ גדולה, רחבה, חזקה, ובכלל בטוח לנו, לילדינו ולילדינו. וזה אני.
כמה רחבה?
כמה שאפשר.
עד עיראק?
הדיון הוא דיון ביטחוני. זה שאנחנו בארץ אבותינו, והסיבה שאנחנו מדיעה, עמדת יש עתידית ובכלל. הציונות במוסדת התנ"ך, המנדט שלנו בארץ ישראל הוא תנ"כי, כל ארץ ישראל תנ"כי יהודי. יש גם שיקולים של ביטחון ושל מדיניות, ושל זמן 2,000 שנה היינו בגלות אותך עומד אותו כל אחד. התשובה היא, יש פה שיקולים מעשיים. מעבר לשיקולים המעשיים, אני מאמין שהחושן שלנו על ארץ ישראל הוא התנ"ך לבד.
רגע, אז עקרונית ארץ ישראל השלמה גדולה.
ארץ ישראל השלמה, הגדולה והרחבה, כמה שאפשר בגבולות הביטחון הישראלי בשביל המדינות הישראלית.
É como se as coisas fossem surgindo por acaso. Uma autoridade diz algo aqui, outra fala outra coisa lá. Em geral, a gente não costuma ligar os pontos. E por isso eu trago essa informação aqui. Esse vídeo é do ex-primeiro-ministro de Israel, Naftali Bennett.
New Turkish threat is emerging. I want to be very clear. Turkey and Qatar have gained influence in Syria, are seeking influence elsewhere and everywhere throughout the region. And from here, I warn, Turkey is the new Iran.
Poucos aplausos.
Sophisticated, dangerous, and he seeks to encircle Israel. And while some senior Israelis were on Qatar's payroll, Qatar and Turkey are nourishing the Islamic Brotherhood monster that is growing and eventually might become as dangerous as the one created by Iran. Turkey and Qatar are gaining influence not only in Syria, but also in Gaza, through the front door, and everywhere, and trying to create a new choke ring. Turkey is trying to flip Saudi Arabia against us and establish a hostile Sunni axis with nuclear Pakistan.
Bom, o que ele diz é a Turquia é o novo Irã. Não é preciso falar muita coisa mais, considerando que há 3.000 anos Deus registrou em cartório que parte do território que hoje é a Turquia pertence a Israel. Mas a história não termina aí. Veja esse trecho de uma entrevista de Netanyahu em 2009. Vamos ouvir, depois eu traduzo e dou o contexto.
The mission that we have is to prevent a militant Islamic regime from meeting up with nuclear weapons or from nuclear weapons meeting up with a militant Islamic regime. The first is called Iran, the second is called Pakistan, because if these radical regimes have nuclear weapons, they will not obey the rules that have been obeyed in the last almost 7 decades.
Ele diz o seguinte: nossa missão é impedir que um regime islâmico militante obtenha armas nucleares ou que armas nucleares se encontrem com um regime islâmico militante. O primeiro se chama Irã, o segundo, Paquistão, porque se esses regimes radicais possuírem armas nucleares, eles não obedecerão às regras que foram respeitadas nas últimas quase 7 décadas. Ou seja, em 2009, o Paquistão já estava na mira de Israel. Mas por quê? O Paquistão, assim como o Irã, não faz fronteira com Israel. Certamente haverá boas explicações para justificar qualquer nova ação militar. Eu diria que não há coincidência no fato de o primeiro-ministro da Índia, Narendra Modi, ter feito uma recente visita de Estado a Israel, sendo recebido com todas as honras, como aparece aqui no Twitter do Modi.
This is a bond of real friendship.
Nas redes sociais, Modi, líder do país mais populoso do mundo, com mais de 1,5 bilhão de pessoas e que faz parte do G20 e do BRICS, fez uma série de publicações elogiosas a Israel e a Netanyahu. Não há uma única palavra sobre o genocídio palestino. Isso também não é coincidência. Mas seria coincidência Índia e Paquistão serem inimigos? E mais coincidência ainda o fato de 95% da população do Paquistão ser muçulmana, um pouco menos que o Irã, em que quase todo mundo é muçulmano. Seria esse o ponto de contato entre Índia e Israel? O ódio ao Islã? Seria apenas isso? Narendra Modi e seu partido Bharatiya Janata querem transformar a Índia de uma república constitucionalmente laica em uma nação que prioriza os hindus, que representam cerca de 80% da população, o equivalente a 1,1 bilhão de pessoas. Esse esforço está enraizado na ideologia do Hindutva, que considera a Índia como uma pátria natural para os hindus. Alguma coincidência com Israel ter interesse em tornar Israel um lugar apenas para judeus? Logo depois da visita de Modi, voltaram a surgir notícias de que Israel estaria envolvido em ações para desestabilizar o Paquistão. Nesse vídeo de 1 minuto, que você vai ver agora, o acadêmico israelense Haim Breshit Zabner diz que Israel está financiando grupos separatistas baluches, como o BLA e o BLF, por meio da Índia, para minar o Paquistão, enquadrando isso como parte de uma estratégia mais ampla de motor do caos. Veja o vídeo.
The chaos engine. That's what Israel is doing. It's the chaos engine of the West. It's serving this machinery of destruction. So, Iraq, gone. Basket case. Libya, gone. East Africa, gone. A whole number of countries there. Yemen, gone. It's not a state anymore. Syria, gone. Lebanon, gone. And now, the next, Iran, and on the plan, Israel is now supporting the Baluchi militia against Pakistan. And not to forget Afghanistan. So, actually, what you see is a destruction of society, the destruction of politics, a destruction of whole countries, of a huge area.
A declaração de Brett Zabner alinha-se à narrativa do Paquistão sobre interferência estrangeira no Baluchistão, que é a maior província do país e faz fronteira com o Irã e o Afeganistão. O povo Baluch, portanto, habita os 3 países, e há um forte movimento separatista nessa província, que é rica em recursos minerais e é a maior fornecedora de gás natural para o Paquistão. Para além da questão religiosa, a visita de Modi evidenciou os fortes laços militares entre Israel e Índia. A Índia é um mercado importante para os produtos de tecnologia de defesa israelense, incluindo drones, softwares de espionagem e segurança cibernética, além de discussões sobre transferências de tecnologia como o domo de ferro e a viga de ferro. O domo de ferro, o Iron Dome em inglês, é um sistema de defesa aérea de curto alcance que começou a operar em 2011 e usa mísseis para interceptar foguetes e drones.
These images show the first operational use of a laser-based air defense system in Israel, known as the Iron Beam, or ITAN. It is being deployed in the current conflict to counter Iranian rocket fire. The new system has now become part of Israel's air defense network, alongside the Iron Dome, David's Sling, and the Arrow systems. The Iron Beam relies on high-energy laser technology, where a focused beam is directed at the target to destroy short-range rockets, mortar shells, or drones within seconds, without the need for traditional interceptor missiles. This system has a relatively low cost per interception and is capable of handling a large number of targets, while other missile-based systems remain in place to address larger or longer-range threats. However, according to experts, laser systems face operational challenges, as their effectiveness can be affected by weather conditions, such as clouds or dust, in addition to requiring a direct line of sight to the target.
Bom, esse vídeo aí foi sobre a viga de ferro, que é o sistema de defesa aérea a laser de alta tecnologia de Israel, projetado para interceptar foguetes, drones e morteiros com precisão milimétrica. Utilizando um feixe de 100 kW, ele oferece proteção rápida, de baixo custo e operacional contra ameaças aéreas de curto alcance, segundo as informações divulgadas pelos fabricantes. Depois de tudo isso, é só escolher o seu motivo preferido: guerra santa, ameaça nuclear ou a paz no mundo como objetivo final. É só acreditar no Trump.
I am the candidate of peace. I am peace. People don't believe that. I am peace.
We do not want war with Iran. We actually want peace. The Iranians are clearly not very good at war. Perhaps they should follow President Trump's lead and give peace a chance.
Kamala is campaigning with warmongers like Liz Cheney. How do you think that is? She picks Liz Cheney, whose father virtually destroyed the Middle East.